Hello. I'm going to talk to you for a few minutes now about the literary practice of allegory, which we can define as a system of symbols. As we've seen, writers sometimes use symbols to represent ideas. To represent more complicated ideas with more various aspects, we can develop these symbols into a system. In other words, we can use a number of symbols in interrelation with each other to represent an idea that might have more facets than a single symbol could ideally explain. And we can call that system an allegory. I think I can explain this most easily through the example of Plato's Allegory of the Cave. In this allegory, Plato, an ancient Greek philosopher, tells a little story. In this story, he asks us to imagine a cave where light gets in only through a narrow opening. Otherwise, the cave is completely dark. Now, imagine that in that cave lives a person who has never been outside the cave. The only thing this person knows is the inside of the cave. That's all this person has ever experienced. In fact, all the information that this person gets about the world comes from shadows on the cave's wall. This person who lives in the cave has never seen anything of the world but these shadows. Thus, this person considers these shadows as reality. With that in mind, Plato tells us that we have a duty as citizens and as humans, really, to pull this person out of the cave and into the sunlight of the actual world. Plato says that only in this way can we all be sure that everyone really experiences reality. As you might notice from how I ended that story, sunlight here works as a symbol. It represents reality. When we see sunlight in this story, we should understand that Plato is talking about a real world, distinct from the false world represented by the shadows that appear on the cave wall. This is the false world that we perceive with our senses. And, as you might guess, the person in this allegory represents us. The person stands in for humanity. The humanity that is experiencing this false world and needs to be pulled out into reality. And with that, we can assume that the cave represents our senses. We are locked in our senses the same way that this person is locked in the cave, experiencing a false world in the cave in the same way that we experience this false world through our senses. Thus, as we can see, Plato has used this system of symbols to make a point about how we experience the world. He's saying that our senses don't give us the whole story, that what we see as reality compares to actual reality the way that shadows of things compare to the actual things. He's saying that there is a world beyond the one that we experience with our senses, and that we owe it to each other to expose ourselves and each other to the knowledge that we have of this world. We owe it to our fellow person to take them out of the cave of their senses and bring them into the sunlight of reality. In other words, Plato is using this allegory to show a way to live in and think about the universe. That's very heavy, I know. And this is what an allegory is useful for. As humans, we can't think very easily about the nature of reality, for instance. But a system of symbols can give us something concrete, something physical, to associate those heavy thoughts with. And so an allegory can help us do very deep thinking in a relatively easy way. Now, although we don't see this form very often in modern literature, we still help ourselves as readers by staying aware of it, by looking for and seeing that system of symbols. We can keep our minds ready for an allegory and read appropriately. We can think about how the symbols work together to create a larger picture of what the writer wants to say, the point the writer wants to make. As always, thank you for your time and attention.